Go blue. Today we're going over how to rig your soft plastic baits that you'd get in the Hog Snacks snack pack. I'm going to go through them real quick, how to rig them up. You really don't need a lot as far as going to the tackle store and buying a bunch of stuff. So here we go. So you'll see here, first let's go through what's in the snack pack. You're going to have ribbon tail worm. That's a 10-inch ribbon tail worm. You're going to have a stick bait. You're going to have a Ned rig, which if you watch the first video is just half of that stick bait. So you wouldn't need both of them. You'd only need that. You could cut it in half. You're going to get a finesse worm, 4-inch. You're going to get a tube bait. You're going to get a drop shot worm. And you're going to get one of these two craws, either that craw or that craw. Now, for all of these baits, this is what you're going to need for hooks and sinkers to rig a multitude of different ways. So this first hook here is a Ned rig hook, or just a weighted jig head. That is in the 1/8 ounce size. This is a 1/0, or no, this is a size 1, not 1/0. Size 1 Gamakatsu straight shank hook. Does not have to be Gamakatsu brand. You can get Bass Pro brand if you can find it. You get a lot more hooks. Their XPS brand is very good. I used that for a long time. This is a 3/0 round bend hook. Okay, that is very good all around hook. This is a tube jig. I believe that's a 3/8 ounce. Probably on a 3/0. I'm not exactly sure of the size of that hook, but probably a 3/0 hook with a 3/8 ounce head. That might even be a 1/4 ounce head. This is a tungsten worm weight. It is 3/8 in size, I believe. You do not need tungsten unless your lakes require non-lead, but lead works. Lead works fine, but it's much bigger. So that same size weight would be twice the size if it was lead. So I prefer tungsten on that. It's a little bit denser, you get a better feel. But my drop shot weights, which also come in tungsten, I pour my own because I go through a lot of these. And that is lead. That is in a 3/16 ounce size. So you might have to rewind these to see how they all go. If I were just starting out, I bought a couple things of snack packs in various colors and didn't know where to start fishing, I would start with the stick bait. Okay? And if you were to do nothing else, you could buy this hook. Alright, the size 1 straight shank hook. You could tie that on with the knots that we showed in a previous video. Run this right through the middle and cast it out. That, and let it sink all the way to the bottom. Once it sinks to the bottom, you're going to pop it up a couple times. Whoops. Pop it up a couple times and let it sink to the bottom again. And you'll do that all the way back to you. These ends will go up and down like this, and it just shimmies down. It falls really slow. There's a little bit of salt in these, so that's what allows them to sink, and it just falls really slow and kind of does that. Drives the fish crazy. That would be the number one thing I would try. That's all you need is that hook and that. Now, if you wanted to get into some more things, right, try some different stuff using that same worm. There's a million different ways you can rig this worm. using the same worm, this 3/0 hook, and this worm weight, the 3/8 ounce worm weight, you can fish a little bit deeper. It will get down a little bit faster, but know that once it gets to the bottom, it's going to fall faster to the bottom, and then it's going to lay on the bottom like that, which isn't the worst thing because you're constantly moving your rod anyway. Even the littlest bit's going to give it some lifelike action. So if I was to rig it this way, this would be the second way I would suggest. You're going to have your fishing line. You're going to put the weight on first. Your line's going to go first. Bullet, it looks like a bullet. The tapered end is going to go towards the eye of the rod. Okay, so that's going to be up there. Then you're going to have your line. Actually, let me grab some more. And my scissors. So, we've got our fishing line. I'm just going to tie on this end so I don't lose everything. I'm just going to tie a big old knot there. Okay, so we've got our fishing line, which you're not going to be able to see all that great, but what we're going to do is we're going to put that on first, the weight on first. Okay, then we're going to tie our hook on. We're going to use our Palomar knot that we showed you in the other video. And this is what you've got. Okay? That is what you've got. So you've got a weight above a hook. So now, it's the second way to put the stick bait on. You're going to poke it through just about as far as that bend goes. So you're going to poke it through, turn it, and pull it out. Okay, so you've got that. And you're going to push this down. When you get up to the neck there, where it L's, you're going to push it over, like turn it and push it over and up so that it is flat. Okay, so that is flat like that. Alright, so now all you're going to do is put this in as straight as possible so you'll avoid line twists. You're going to see where your hook goes in, about the middle of that egg sac right there, or you can look at a little sparkly or whatever you got to do. You're going to push it in, poke it all the way through. So now you're on the outside, and then you're going to push this up and cover that hook point. So, final rigging job looks just like that. Doesn't look like much, but as you're moving that through the water and this tail is undulating and jiggling around in the back, fish are going to come over, check it out, bite it. Now, when you have it weedless like that, that's buried in there so that it's weedless, so you're not getting any weeds or rocks or anything. It's not hitting anything, right? When it's buried like that, when a fish taps it or starts pulling, you've really got to set the hook quite a bit harder than when this hook was through the middle, because that's an exposed hook. You're just gonna kind of reel into the fish and it'll poke itself. It'll hook itself. So that's the second way I'd rig the stick bait. This is called a Texas rig. Okay, this 3/0 hook, 3/16 to a 3/8 ounce weight, depending on how deep you're fishing, will work on this bait, this bait, this bait, this bait, this bait, and this bait. You can even get away with the other two, so you could say all of them, but the ones that it's mainly used on are all but these two littler ones, and we'll get into those in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to show you on the big worm. I'm going to go a little bit quicker. Poke it through, out, push it down, turn it around, poke it up, out, bury it. This big worm is a great summer bait. This is an awesome color. Great summer bait. That tail's going to twirl behind there. It's going to throw off some vibration. It's going to be a lot of action in the back. This is going to be a big player come summer. Okay? Same rig, Texas rig. Tube bait. Same thing. Same thing. This will spiral on the way down. It does something different. It spirals. These little tentacles vibrate and shimmy behind it. A little bit of sparkle. That's our June bug color. Awesome color. Same thing, Texas rig. So if you only had to buy one thing, it would be this 3/16 to 3/8 ounce weight and this 3/0 round bend hook. All right. All this other stuff is just fluff. And I'm not going to go through all these. Same thing here. Same thing with the craw. And we'll get into how to fish them later. But you're gonna hook all of them the same way. You're going to poke it in, down to the barb, peel it out, push it up, turn it around on the bend, poke it through, and then Tex-pose it is what they call it. Alright, so that's your Texas rig. Going one further, so you've got your Texas rig, you can turn your Texas rig into a Carolina rig if you buy, I think this is like a $99.9. It's called a bobber stop, and you get a bunch of them on there. What you're going to do, well, I guess I'll show you. What we're trying to do, so with the Texas rig, the worm weight's there. With the Carolina rig, we're going to try and make the weight like a foot above or up the line. Alright? So to Carolina rig it, you're going to put your line. This is before the hook's on too. I'm kind of doing this backwards because I've only got the short line. So the first thing that would go on would be a bobber stop. Okay? So you put a bobber stop on the line. Okay? Which would be the top bobber stop. Then you would slide your worm weight up. Okay? Then you'd put another bobber stop. And the way this works is you just poke your line through this wire thing, and then you pull the little bead off onto the line. Like so. Okay? So then what you'd end up with is bobber stop, weight, bobber stop. If you slide that all together, that weight will not move from there, right? So now you Texas rig or Tex-pose all those baits that we just talked about, and what's going to happen is the ones that don't have salt in them, like this guy, is going to float behind that weight up off of the bottom, and the fish can find it a little better. Now they're going to be able to see the weight and feel the weight and hear the weight as it's rustling through the bottom, but in essence this will be pulling along on the bottom, and this will be hovering. I don't know, this is hard to demonstrate, but you get the idea. This will hit first, right? And then this will either slowly fall down and you'll be able to pull it through the water, and it'll go down, but then as you pull it, it'll pop back up and then go back down. So, alright, that's Carolina rig. Let's show you this one. This one's a quick one. So this is the tube jig. This is really you can do two things with this, but really it's made for the tube. You're going to moisten that with water or whatever, and then you're going to slide it, you're going to push it up into the tube. If you can see, the tube's got an opening. You're going to push it up into the tube, and then you're going to poke out the little eyelet and then tie it on there. Okay? And that will spiral and go all crazy. It does a completely different action than all the rest of these. So that's what the tube jig's for. The other thing that you can use for a tube jig is if you wanted to get this down faster, but you wanted it to be rigged wacky, you do the same thing. You'd put this on. The weight's going to go down first. This is going to undulate these a lot quicker when it's going down, and there's a million ways to do it. There's special hooks that you can do it, but you don't need them. You can use this hook. You can use what I'm about to show you with the drop shot. You can use one of these. Any weight below this is going to do the same thing in essence. So that's the two things you can use that for. This little jig head, you can put it on here. It's going to be a lot slower fall because that is a big worm on like a little 16th ounce head. You can put it on here. That's called a jig worm. And what you do, well, for this it's a little bit different than the round bend. You're actually going to lay it along the worm, right? And then you're going to mark where it's going to come out. You're going to go through the center of this worm down to where it's going to come out, poke it out, push it up, and then that's what you got. It's a jig worm. So that's a long version of the jig worm. The Ned rig, if you've heard of it, is basically the shorter version of that. Same thing. There's your Ned rig. And what you do with these, the jig worm and the Ned rig, is you let it fall down. If you're on a grass lake, you let it fall down, get it a little bit hung up in the grass, if you will, and you snap your rod up and it snaps free of that grass, and then it comes up and the fish will pop it as it pops out of that grass. If you're on a rocky lake, you can just drag it along the bottom. This thing's going to stick up in the back. There's no salt in this guy. When we do with the Ned rigs, there's no salt, and it's going to just make a little motion back there and look like a little bait fish eating on the bottom. Alright? So that's your Ned rig head or your jig head. And then, last but not least, the most complicated one, but also one of my go-tos, is a drop shot. So what you've got is you've got your line, okay, which you're going to have a hard time seeing. You're going to tie your size 1 straight shank on with a Palomar knot like we did before. We're going to make a big loop this time. So, a big loop. If you can see that against my shirt, I don't know. Oh. So you want a bigger loop. You're going to cross it over, make your Palomar like you normally would. Okay. You can go wrap it around on the bottom. Pull your loop that you went through the hook with over the top like we talked about in the video. Pull it down. Pull it down. Pull it down. Moisten that so it doesn't burn, basically. Once that's moistened, cinch it down. Pull your main line and your tag line. And what you've got left is this long tag end. What you're going to do with that long tag end is you're going to go back through the eye of the hook. Okay? And pull that down until that knot either sits on top. You can see that knot on top of the hook, or if you can pull it through, that works too. But ultimately, when you hold that line straight up and down, you want that hook to lay like that, horizontal. Then you're going to take your 3/16 ounce drop shot weight or cylinder weight. It's got a little clasp on it. You're going to poke your line through that and then just pull up, and this is what you've got. I don't know how well you can see that, but your weight's on the bottom, right? Your weight's here and your hook's here. You're going to be able to see the hook better in a second, because then what we're going to do is we're going to rig our drop shot worm. And there's two ways of doing this. You can either just poke it through the head like that, and then when that's on the bottom and you're pulling tight, that's what it's going to look like. It's going to hang down a little bit. What I like to do to keep it weedless, because we have a lot of weeds here, is I like to poke it along this, like along the, you poke it in, so if you can see where that hook is laying, that's kind of how you want it to lay in there. So the point is almost out the nose. So you're going to poke it in and then pull it up and not quite pull it out the nose. And what you're going to get there is that, and then the water is going to push that up flat, right? The water is going to have that holding out there flatter. And again, because it's weedless, that hook point's not showing, you're going to have to set the hook a little bit harder than when the hook point is showing. So that's your drop shot. On that, you can use the drop shot worm. You can use the Ned head, or the Ned bait, I should say. Will float back there. Looks like a little turd. You can use your finesse worm. Same way. Rig your finesse worm. Right? And as you get into the bigger worms, you could use a bigger hook. Now, the other way you can get this wacky rigged is what they call it when you hook it through the middle. Wacky rigged to sink faster is by doing the same thing. Tie up your drop shot, hook it through the middle, and then when it falls, the weight's falling first. Same principle. These arms or legs or appendages are gonna kind of push up and down on the, like that. They're gonna jiggle. They're gonna jiggle like that, real subtly as it falls to the bottom. Hopefully that gets you guys and gals started with how to rig all of these. I know I had a friend buy a pack of these and she wanted to know how to rig them. That's how you rig them. Leave me any questions in the comments section. Like, subscribe, share, tell your friends. Thanks for watching.